it's Ryan, and I just finished recording the latest episode of Cinematic on The Kid with the Golden Arm. Go check it out. And I thought while I had everything set up, I would do the commentary track that I wanted to do for Old School, the skate video that I released probably last week by the time this actually comes out. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to bring up the video here. It's going to be a side-by-side if you're on YouTube, but I think by the time I'm done, this should also work as a podcast. So it'll show up in both feeds, and I will try, which I should probably do this more often on this channel, I will try to explain everything as if nobody knows who the heck I am or what the heck is going on. So that's going to be the tack at this point. So I'm going to hit go now. And I'm going to stop it just as quickly. I did not realize until this year, so this is going to be a strange exercise because we filmed this in the 90s. I first edited this thing together, again, first video I ever made in the 2000s, and then remastering it nowadays. So I've got kind of 3 time periods to deal with, but this time period, when I was re-editing it this time, I never ever realized that this entire beginning I completely ripped off from Plan B's virtual reality skate video, which we watched all the time. You know, we basically had memorized. So no surprise that it stuck, and I swear unknowingly completely ripped it off 10 years later. But speaking of which, should I explain where this video even came from? Back in the 90s, my mother borrowed my grandmother's, so her mom's video camera. It was the only one I remember. Our family had one that we borrowed and then returned because we didn't like it, but had already filmed our little time capsule of a video. My grandmother always had one. So I remember my mom borrowing it, and I got a hold of it to film skateboarding, but I think I remember the instruction being don't let grandma know to some extent. So sorry, grandma, but I'm sure glad that I used it for such nefarious purposes as this, because this is it. This is all. I do have one more video of footage that was taken probably in '99 that is lost. I don't know. I know what happened to it. I know who I left it with. He doesn't know what happened to it. So this is all there is. So a Hella Limpy Casper Times production to explain that, but not really explain it in the end. My tag name for some amount of time was Limpy. I don't know why. I don't know. Because also anytime I used it, it was stupid. Like there's no good letters in there. None of it looked good. I guess I'm sure somebody somewhere can make it look good. Stupid. And Brandon's tag name was Casper. His was, I believe, Buster for a while, but when that became synonymous with wannabe gangster, I can't remember if that was probably before, and that's why he switched to Casper. But in any event, that's the joke I made at this time in the 2000s. Why it's weird, those 3 different time periods, is because when I remastered it this time, I did I want to say a fair amount of changes. Most of them nobody would ever notice but me. Like I fixed the needle drops where they start in the cuts a lot better. Some of the musical edits I fixed, but the bigger things I fixed we'll talk about in a few here. But this was something I left up, even though, you know, it's a lame joke. But what can you do? I should probably stop pausing it so much and just let it go for at least a little bit. But I am going to pause it right here on Jeff McDonough's name, because all apologies to Jeff McDonough. This, in a stunning move that it makes even less sense than the tag name Limpy, Jeff was a great friend. He was quite possibly one of the, if not the best skater in the group. You'll notice when you watch this video, all of his stuff is insanely clean. Like, he is the cleanest skateboarder in the entire group by far. I go bigger maybe, but it's all ugly. I was regular foot, strictly speaking, but I'm absolutely goofy, and Mongo at that, if you really want to get into it. But for some reason, we felt empowered to make fun of Jeff incessantly and unjustifiably, both because of who he was, but also because of who we were. You know, you will also see over the course of this video, myself more so than Brandon, who I think comes off looking pretty cool in this thing. But I why was I making fun of anybody? Why was I punching down or thinking that I could punch down at all? I don't know. And the original cut of this video, which again, I hope doesn't exist anywhere except in those DVDs I sent out. I think I sent out 2 DVDs when I first made this in the 2000s. I don't remember who all I sent them to. I think just me, Paul, and Brandon for the most part. But burn them or something, because this version's much better. I take out like 90% of the homophobia and deleted all, I think, of us being incredibly mean to Jeff. So I apologize. I don't know how that escaped me for so long. Even making this in 2000, and I think I reposted it at some point in the 2010s maybe, and I like tagged people on Facebook. I was like, haha, remember the good old days? Not like, still not clicking. Like, you're super mean to Jeff in this thing. So I'm sorry, Jeff. It's fixed now. I hope you get a hold of this version at some point. Myself, Brandon, Jimmy, Paul, Justin, you're going to see still in fairly regular contact, actually. So we've got a group text going that we frequent, you know, I don't know how often, but I haven't seen Jeff. You know, justifiably, he may have severed ties with us. Old School, not the least obvious title, but come on. Another thing to keep in mind as we go through this, shameless plug for the new series I'm going to do called Older School, where I'm going to cut out each and every one of these clips from my part. We're going to go back to where we tried to do them and see if I can do them again. So I think it'll be a fun exercise because the architecture doesn't exist in a lot of cases, but also I don't know how possible this first trick would be, both because I'm not that comfortable around traffic like that. It's a slow ride down. I think that's why I had control at all, but I did that every single day we skated where we did, so whatever. Alfie's is going to be a fun one too. That's Alfie's Fish and Chips right there. That looks a lot different. Pretty sure that right there also, that ollie is, I think there's a handrail in front of it now, so that's probably, I shouldn't spoil too much, but I don't know if this exists. Most of this I just don't know because I haven't been there maybe since I did this, but there's going to be a lot of surprises, let's say. And yes, I'm aware that maybe I should have led with this. None of these tricks are great, you know, like certainly not as good as the music might insist. You know, it's if you get amped up by listening to it and thinking, I'm aware it's above average. You know, I knew growing up where I did that you know, our core group, which was kind of the core group of skaters for the entire town, but I knew that we were, you know, better than most, you know, that might have just had. This is also pre-X Games, keep in mind. So it was an entirely different world. We were right in between the 80s, where skateboarding kind of exploded, and the X Games, again, where it kind of exploded again. So we were in this spot where jocks still hated us, kind of, but didn't necessarily know why. But also, we had tiny wheels for no reason. So it's such a weird time to be a skateboarder. And the reason I mention that is because I know that my skills might have been above average, so to speak, but none of these are like crazy good or anything. So don't think I'm talking myself up that much or anything. I mean, we'll find out when I go back and try to do them again, because as unimpressive as they might be technically, I'm out of practice, let's say. Again, that K grind, for example, like I don't even ollie. I don't think we ever learned how to ollie into K grinds, let alone nose slides. We barely knew what some of the tricks were called. I think we had front side and back side reverse for our entire skateboarding career. I'm disappointed I did as many 360 flips as I did, because I've tried to recreate those because they're fairly low impact and not been all that successful. Brandon was always the better 360 flipper. I laugh because when I say, you know, these aren't the most impressive tricks, and when I mentioned how clean Jeff is, I am not. Like, I am... That's maybe the cleanest trick in the entire set that I do. That I don't know what we're gonna do. There's no... that obviously those materials aren't even there anymore. That was just a box and some wood that we found in a pile.
Yeah, it is.
So this is... well... yeah, I guess I don't need to tell you the things I cut out, but this is coming up on the first Jeff thing I cut out, because we took it and gave it, certainly. We were all kind of razzing each other all the time, but when he razzed me, I came back in disproportionate fashion, let's say, so I deleted that part.
What are you doing?
Paul's talking about how which, Paul, did you? Is that, now looking back, I'm like, wait, you tried this, and or was that like I don't know. But supposedly this is where he broke his foot. So we were talking about that before I did it. But then I did it.
Okay, now it's recording.
And that's new for this one. I put that clip in instead of another one that was there, because I think 2 times I ollied this, and Paul had the which happens more often than you think. I have that footage at the beginning where it's me videotaping the skateboard, the floor, the street, the asphalt. That was on accident, because Dan Means, who I think had the camera at the time, got the button switched. So when he hit record, he was actually stopping recording, and when he thought he was stopping, he was starting. So he got all this footage like in between spots. And then there's actually a good clip of him going, yeah, I got it, that was cool, but it's like just a cut. You don't see anything because it's just the in-betweens that he was actually getting. So I don't know if that's what was going on with Paul, but he missed my first 2 attempts at this. And the 8 stair was not something I did often. You know, that's why I put it at the end of my part, because it was scary then. I'm another spoiler, might draw the line this time around. I don't know if I'm going to be able to work up to doing the 8 stair. If it exists still, it's not... I don't know what business is there now. But yeah, so. That was me walking back to the camera to make sure he got it this time, which he did. Again, there I am. Why I thought I wasn't the dorkiest dude on the planet. I mean, I don't know if I did not think that, but... yeah, we all knew it was an 8 stair. This is always weird that he got up to 9 somehow. I guess it depends. Is there controversy surrounding that? Like, somebody count the bottom step? Is that thing? I only ever counted the actual steps, so 8. See, if you're counting the amount of steps you have to take, I guess,
so
maybe?
Dirty. Not in about 5 minutes. Jeff, can you get that for me?
This is us being nice to Jeff. So.
Dang, Jeff, you sure know how to help old ladies out.
In the most patronizing way possible.
Dang, this guy's Master Broom Sweeper G.
Again, though, look at him. Jeff did go on. Jeff, I don't know if you're able to ever listen to this, but correct me. Let me know what happened to you, because I knew you carried skateboarding farther than any of us did. You... pretty sure got sponsored. I don't remember by who. Of the first generation, at least. When I kind of got back into skateboarding a little bit later, before I left the country, I started hanging out with the younger crew, kind of the next generation. That was the old man hanging out with the new kids. But of this crew, Jeff was it. Fortunately, well, in fact, why my part is so much longer than everybody else's is because I was the guy with the camera. So it's not out of vanity. It was just that was where we got the most footage because I was the one that had the camera most often. Jeff, unfortunately, I think was only there for one of the days. I don't know, but I got a whole bunch of the same trick. So it was like, do I only put in one of them and his part is like 2 seconds long? Or do I put in all of his successful attempts at the one trick and all of his not successful attempts at this other trick? And I went with the other, so. I think it works. And a different angle even. Boy, I thought of everything. Can't remember who was on the camera right then. It was me or Paul. In fact, I think it was just me, Paul, and Jeff at this spot on this day. Wasn't much I could do about the backlighting of the original footage. The definition, I think, came out pretty good. Like the upscaling, I think looks pretty good, but
This is for Mia.
Dan. So Dan was from Long Beach. He came in to the group sophomore or junior year, and I don't think stayed through senior. So he was kind of not a blip, you know, that's a mean way of putting it. He was part of the crew, you know, we were good friends, but I think, did he go back to Long Beach? I don't know. One of the reasons I chose this song, though, it's actually a sub in. It seems perfect because he came to Long Beach. I can't remember if it was before I'm Just a Girl or that was probably No Doubt's big hit, right? I don't know. He came with all the bluster of Long Beach and just a pocket full of Sublime and No Doubt. So I tried to choose a song close to No Doubt, you know, female singer and kind of ska punkish, and this is Dance Hall Crashers, so it's not exactly the same, but people know what I mean. I think we got all of his tricks. He was good at those. We saw that all the time. That was like his thing. He in fact, I want to say he taught us all that. He brought it to us. In fact, not to pause it in the middle of his slow-mo. I tried to put everybody's cool trick in slow-mo at the end of their part. But skateboarding is more collaborative than I think, I don't know about nowadays, but I think than most people expect or realize, especially as a sport, you know, where you think about how competitive it can be. There's even surfing can get competitive in a special kind of way. Some of that bleeds over into skateboarding for sure, but for the most part, and for my group and for my experience, it was so collaborative in the way that you build each other up. Even if you're skateboarding with somebody who's not as good as you, so to speak, you lift each other. You know, like you're always playing off of each other in a way. You're trying the same trick, maybe back and forth. And this is before skate existed. You know, there's a game that skaters play now that's basically horse except skate. You know, you do a trick, and if they can do it, they don't get a letter. If they fail, they get a letter. We did not know that existed at the time. So we would just try the same tricks over and over till either one of us would get it. And if the other person got it, we'd be extremely happy for them. That's what I feel like is the most collaborative thing and most different thing about skateboarding than anything else. You know, if we found a spot, we were like, dude, come check out this spot, you know, and that's where I say stuff might get a little bit competitive because there's this aspect to, you know, don't blow up the spot or, you know, if that came, you know, territoriality, you know, especially when it comes from surfing or whatnot, but none of that in my group, and especially where we were at, which why would there be in Lompoc, California, by the way. But when Dan came to town, he brought his tricks with him, and I think we all learned a few for the better because of it. And same thing with Jimmy. Jimmy came through, we'll get to his part, but Freshman year, Jimmy? Was it still? Sophomore at the latest. And I think that was a deck I had given Dan, because that was another thing about Dan, is that he always, maybe not always, but I feel like he didn't often have his own skateboard. He would kind of pick up leftovers here and there. And I think that was an old in-house deck that I had given him, and was the one that we broke. The only one that broke throughout all of these, I think, even though I broke like 20 decks over the years. The ongoing joke was that Paul made that face anytime he told a story, so he was making a joke to camera about that face, although I think I got the face non-jokingly later. It was just ingrained in him. What's the story behind that, Paul? Do you know why you do that face? Still not a bad set though. I'm upset I didn't get this trick. He tried it a couple times and he almost landed it this next time, but right here. Wish I would have got it, because that was pretty much it. And other than that, his part's pretty short, so. I don't know why I started doing the Hawaii 5-0 theme right there. Another thing that'll be lost to time. That's my knee, thank you.
What do you guys say to that, Jimmy?
Which you can see the active scab, but there's like 3 other scars around it. That was just the life. If you don't get motion sickness by the end of this video, then you deserve a medal or something, but not much I can do about that. I could have looked at it stabilizing the footage, but we would not be talking right now if that was the case. That's a can of worms every single time, pretty much. Especially with how shaky this is. See, just a little bit of homophobia left in, it's fine. It was the 90s. I mean, latent homophobia, I guess. We weren't, you know. So Brandon was grounded. We just talked about this recently too, where we commented back and forth. I think it might have been because of grades, now that I think about it, but again, take your pick was Brandon's response. I think you can tell though. I think you can see, even though he hadn't been. Which now I'm curious, how did we get him outside for a day? Was the camera enough to supersede being grounded, or was he finally not grounded and this is just? I feel like he was still grounded though, because otherwise why wasn't he with us on most of the other days?
Like a long day of groundation. Oh, what? Huh? Where'd you go? Dang. Oh, there he is.
But I think you can see that he had the skills. He was just out of practice. So with those 360 flips, they're just clean. I am surprised I didn't get at least one. Back when I wrote that was a joke. But now I really don't remember. Justin, you were with us pretty often. Ashley was not. This was a joke. She happened to be coming back from the field, so we took some footage. Colby had the strangest kick flips. I'm glad I did get one. It was like ollie and then kick. It was like a 2-part. But he had them. Dan, we have reconnected with a few times. Might have been the only one of us that joined the armed forces.
Screwed up.
Every skate video has the slams at the end. So that right there, what Dan just did, was always funny because we called it a taco. But apparently as far south as Long Beach, it was called a Big Mac. So I'm curious, I've never looked up how widespread or regional some of those terms were, but funny that it stayed within the fast food realm. But landing on your trucks, Big Mac or a taco, depending on where you're from. none of these real bad slams. In fact, the worst slam of the bunch was a hidden feature on the DVD, so it's not in this actual video. So I've got an idea that maybe I go through and create a B-sides of old school, so kind of a video using all the footage that I didn't use for this video. So that might happen soon, but who knows what soon is. So it's a freshie, yep, for the camera. Why were the clothes so big, you ask? Well, in this area at least, I remember the skateboarders. That's part of how I met Brandon, actually. How far back you want to go? My mom bought me, so it must have already been the style because the pants existed, but she bought me a pair of baggy pants from Miller's Outpost in middle school. And I wore that to school, and in so doing, looked like a skateboarder. Didn't have a skateboard. So Brandon I don't know, like approached, I don't remember the actual connection, but took me in and spoke with John Blankenship, right? Wasn't it? And asked permission if I could join the skateboard group. And I believe he had some misgivings about how uncool I was. So I don't know if that ever got approved, but I weaseled my way in somehow, and must have been within months-ish. I bought my first skateboard. I bought a Lance Conklin. Oh, what was the brand? What would it have been? Was it a Powell? I don't remember, actually, now. I'll have to look it up. Wow, I haven't done that since. It was like, had pipes on the bottom, I think. A Lance Conklin with pipes on the bottom? I don't know. Why did I start talking about it? Oh, because of the baggy clothes. So then we went nuts, right? You know, I don't think we ever had a legit pair of Jinkos, but we shopped at the store where Jinkos were sold. And I'm sure if we had, Jinkos were strange because they were like, they fanned out, you know? We would just buy fat pants and then use a belt and cut off the ends, so it didn't matter. You know, I don't think we ever had, strictly speaking, an actual pair of Jinkos, but we also didn't have actual skateboard brand pants because they were too expensive most of the time. So most of the time it was just fat pants, belt, chop them off. So there you go. Again, why, it was just, the style, we thought. It was definitely the style, but who knows how stylish we were back in the day. Although there has always been, go watch Dogtown and Z-Boys, like literally, seriously watch that if you're curious as to the style aspect of skateboarding, because it's fairly huge, but the same could be said about a lot of different subcultures. So in any event, we all wore very good clothes. I believe part of the reason this particular spot was so hard, I think there was a slight, like super duper slight, but that's really all it takes, incline at the bottom. Like it was just uneven. So whereas if it's smooth, obviously you land and you keep your momentum. There was like just enough like stoppage or slow down or you know, resistance once you hit that it made it strange. So that's why you'll see me try to adjust. I was not thinking this, but in watching the footage, you'll see me try to adjust and kind of lean back and lean forward. That's why sometimes the skateboard starts shooting out in front of me. But I might be overthinking it anyway. I certainly wasn't overthinking it then. In fact, it is baffling how little thought I gave to learning how to do a trick back then. It was basically just do it over and over until I got it. It wasn't like maybe I should do this different with my feet, or maybe I should, you know, like nowadays there's a whole bunch of trick tips out there and whatever, like, you know, position your feet like this, do this with your feet, you know. The most complicated we ever got was for a 360 flip. I remember figuring out that if I just swung my back foot literally as hard as I could, that would get the 360 degrees in there. That was it. Everything else was like, just flip it, you know, just keep trying until you got it. So I'm hoping that's going to help me this time around for older school. I'm hoping that the adult level of thought that I'll put into executing skateboard tricks will assist me in not dying. I mean, we're not using a fisheye. A lot of skate videos use fisheyes, so I'm not gonna say the distance is exaggerated, but it looks a lot cooler.
Yeah!
Yep.
Excuse me. You have no right to do right there.
Again, why did I think I had the upper hand? Never. Yeah, the one I cut is on that stair set. This is at my high school, by the way, at Cabrillo. The slam that I cut was on that stair set, and it's basically just a slam in every sense of the word. I hit the ground pretty hard, and my arms didn't quite follow, so I just get all twisted up like a pretzel. There, I'm just messing around. Here, so I've never thought that people might think I'm actually angry right here. I didn't get angry a whole lot skateboarding. In fact, I'm hard-pressed to think of a time. I remember at one point, I had somehow lost the nuts on the outside of my trucks, like the Loctite was shot or something, because trucks typically lasted longer than anything else, so you would have a pair of trucks. They were also more expensive than most things, so you would have a pair of trucks from like deck to deck to deck. I remember those bolts coming off, so I had gone to just a normal hardware store, which is another weird thing we would do instead of going to a skateboard shop, although, did they have spare nuts at a skateboard shop back then? I don't know. It would have been Surf Connection, would have been the name of the shop. We got some from a hardware store that fit. I put them on backwards, so the Loctite was first, because I think they were too big or too long, so the Loctite wouldn't catch unless I put them on backwards. And still, they would come off. And I remember we were skateboarding by my house, and Brandon took my skateboard for some reason, and he did something I said to be careful not to do. I wonder if he remembers this. Me and Brandon often have complementary memories where he remembers zero of something and I remember it, and then when I'm failing, he figures it out. But he did that thing, and I lost some nuts out of it. I don't think I lost a wheel, but my wheels came off, so I couldn't skate for the rest of the day anyway. And I remember being a little peeved. But other than that, I don't remember getting mad at skateboarding really at all. I must have, in not being able to do a trick or something like that. But I am not mad right here at this point in the video. What happens when your skateboard collides with a wall or something, perpendicular, is that it'll chip your nose. So a lot of times the only way to unchip or to get those plies back together is to slam your board on the cement. So that's what I was doing there. My nose was chipped, so I was trying to bring it back together. This, I'll let it play out first.
Well, I guess that's all.
Oh.
Did you turn it off, please? Turn it off. Don't do it. Nice music, nice music.
So why that's so weird, it's a Beastie Boys song, I think off of Ill Communications, if I'm not mistaken. And it had some swearing in it. And we were not allowed to listen to music with swearing in it. But also, if Brandon got caught listening to music with swearing in it, it was worse. It was bad. He would get grounded, as we talked about. In fact, I think at one point I had loaned him my Aquabat CD, which has the cartoon Aquabat on it. It looks like he has devil horns, and I think that got taken away from him at some point. But very happy-go-lucky band, the Aquabats. No swearing either. The camera had a fade-out function. So part of the reason I used fade to white in this video is because the in-camera fade was to white in the camcorder for some reason. I don't know. So originally this was the fade from the camcorder, and Brandon was trying to get me to turn off the camera before the swearing started on the music, but I was just trying to, that's why you'll hear me say, I guess that's all. Like I was trying to end the video and then do a fade out. So I was waiting until it was actually faded out before I cut, but he didn't know that. So it resulted in that strange occurrence. But if you ever wondered, which maybe you didn't, because this is the first time you're seeing any of this. One of the changes I did make, so the beginning of this video always began with the sound of skateboarding underneath that footage, but it was just road sounds. So as a change, I took some of the sounds from this clip, which has us doing tricks over and over. So you'll hear lots of, clicking and landing and stuff like that. I took the sound from this and I put that on the beginning, cut together with some of us, like you can kind of hear us talking in the background. I thought it was a nice bookend, both because it is the audio from this section at the end of the movie, but also because I thought it was hearing us kind of in the background while doing tricks was a little more evocative, I guess you could say. So Spielberg over here. I did redo the credits. The old school wasn't so big like that at the beginning, and then it didn't. It just scrolled before in the original one, so small change, but whatever. Oh, I also put the credits at the beginning and the end are all in order of appearance now. Before I had them arranged by I don't know. And then at the end with Justin, Ashley, Colby, and Dan, I just said and friends. So I included their names in it this time because come on, there's not that many people in the entire video. So otherwise the credits are the same except for Jeff's part I got wrong. For the name of the album, I put I Want, which Over It is the name of the EP that song Disconnected is from. Face to Face recorded Disconnected, I don't know how many times. I'm not even going to try. But it was at least on Don't Turn Away. Then they put it on Over It, the EP. And then the joke was on Big Choice, how they have that whole track before it that's like, we'll never put this song on. And then it's on there again. They're all different recordings. So originally for Jeff's part, I had the one from Over It. And I don't have that CD. If I ever had that CD, there's a small chance some of the songs from this, besides the short music for short people, which I think was only ever a CD and digital, there's a chance some of these songs were, like I captured them from the cassettes that we have, because even though CDs were available back then, me and Brandon, at the very least, made a conscious decision to stick to cassettes because they were cheaper. But also we could fit, we both had 66 Chryslers. Eventually he sold his before I sold mine. But we had mounted those cassette players in our glove boxes. So I don't know. I remember it being a conscious choice for me to stick with cassettes rather than CDs, but there's a chance that that's where I got the original song I used for this. So when I went back to get the CD quality versions of all of these songs, and I've mentioned this a little bit elsewhere, but Disconnected, the Over It EP I didn't have at all, if I ever had it, but also the band is apparently, because they were in between labels, and I think they hate the label they did it with eventually or something like that. I don't know, Face to Face is a story. But they have asked that Over It not be reproduced at all anymore for whatever reason. So I had to go find a used version for that. But also, have you tried looking for new CDs of even just the ones you used to listen to when you were young? They're all super expensive. Another one I had to find was NoFX, White Trash, Two Heaves and a Bean, which I think I did have at some point, but I don't know what happened to it. That might have been the CD. I traded somebody I can't remember at some point because we walked home from the bus at the same time. I traded him Against the Grain. No, that was for Pennywise. I traded him for Unknown Road. That's right. But I did get that back because I think I have Unknown Road. Anyway, I don't know what happened to Over It, White Trash, Two Heaves and a Bean, or what was the third one? Oh, Short Music for Short People, which I must have had the CD, but again, just gone. So I had to find those, and NoFX brand new was like $30 if you want it. So I had to find it used. And same with Over It. I got it altogether. I think by the time I was done, it was $20 for all 3 CDs. So not too bad, but worth it, because one of the worst parts of the original video, which I edited with Final Cut Express, not even Pro, was that I used like low quality MP3s, but also Final Cut Express hated MP3s for whatever reason. So there was like, you can see it in the sound wave if I noticed while I was looking at it. It just cuts out. You know, when you're listening to it or watching that video, it manifests as kind of blips or beeps sometimes, but I don't know. It was the worst part of that video. One of the reasons I always wish I could redo it. So it sounds great now. I also retooled the mix because I don't think I ever edited out the skateboard sounds, but I definitely didn't adjust them. So for the most part, you just heard the music in the old video. In this one, you'll notice you can hear the actual skateboarding and people talking a lot better. You know, it's a better mix. You can hear both at the same time. So either way, thank goodness for short music for short people, because with such little footage and so few tricks, all of those short songs came in quite handy. So. And honestly, the final song, the Night on Earth, and this kind of slow-mo thing that I do to the rest of it, I think it was a happy accident. I don't know how I came about this extended outro, but I get the feels every time. I'm sorry to say, I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but this kickflip into the sunset sequence. Where did the time go? Why can't I go back? So we'll find out when I start doing the episodes of Older School. But I changed one more thing. Right here used to be a slow fade to white. Now it just cuts. So that's the story behind Old School. I think I covered most of it. I actually did a commentary track for the older one too, which that was I released a second. This was when the Matrix sequels were coming out, so I did an Old School Reloaded that had the commentary track on it. So. That's that. Hope you liked it. It's been a blast, and probably go to the Patreon and all that stuff, but my camera battery's about to die, so. See you next time.